Good morning. I can promise you that if I can do the soundboard, anybody can do the soundboard. You just go and wait, and then wait. And then if you're like me, you just turn the music way up whenever you're worshiping, because I really like to jam, and it sounds way different back there than it does up here. So it doesn't matter if it sounds terrible up here or if you blow Mike out of his chair like I've done before. It sounds really good back there. So you just turn it up as you need it, and then you just rock out. That's what I do. So I promise anybody can do it. So anyway, sorry, I just had to throw that out there. So this morning I will be preaching over the parable of the lost sheep, which is in Matthew 18, 10 through 14. And it says, it's page 844. Perfect. I didn't have that on my paper. Sorry. Beware, well, my version is different, I guess, so it's okay. Beware that you don't look down on any of these little ones. For I tell you, yeah, exactly. So I tell you that in heaven, their angels are always in the presence of my heavenly Father. For the Son of Man came to save that which was lost. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others, leave the others on the hills and go out to search for the one that is lost? And if he finds it, I tell you the truth, he will rejoice over it more than the other 99 that didn't wander away. In the same way, it is not my heavenly Father's will that even one of these little ones should perish. So I feel like Jesus uses children and sheep a lot, and it could just be me in his parables. And I got to thinking, like, why? So I, decided to do some looking up. And it's because they're both very dependent on the person that's taking care of them, right? So they're dependent and they're helpless and need someone to watch over them. So I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But before he even starts talking about them, he says, don't look down on any of these little ones. Well, I mean, how many times do we see a child and they come up to us and they tell us something and we're like, yeah, whatever, like we don't believe them. Or that we say, like I've been told this many times, you don't really understand that quite yet, so just wait till you're a little older and then you'll really understand it. And I'm like, well, how many times do they really understand it? And we're the ones that, have forgot it. And I'm like, man, like I see why he uses children. So we're supposed to be like children and, love the way they do and honestly believe the way they do. And so many times I thought he would use sheep because they know their shepherd, right? Like, I'm not a shepherd, I promise. We had one billy goat, I think, whenever I was little, and it always headbutted, and I was like 5. My dad's like, do not go on that field with that because he will run you over. And of course, it was my older brother's fault that it headbutted because he'd always hit it in the head, not hard, but hit it and made it headbutt. So it was his. Anyway, so I thought when you went out there, it would run to you because that one did. It ran at you. And so I went to, good old Mike Roberts. And I said, hey, you have some sheep, right? He's like, yeah, I have a bunch. He didn't say that, but I was like, do they run to you? You open the gate and they're like, oh, the guy that's going to feed us is here. They run to you? And he's like, no. They don't. They actually run the opposite way. And I was like, for real? You're feeding them? Yeah, I don't know. They run the opposite way. And I was like, well, there goes that idea. Guess I'll just have to do my own research. So I decided to look up the importance of sheep in biblical times. And they were used for the primary source of income. And then, of course, they were used for food, milk, wool, and then sacrifices to atone for sin and to worship God. And they're still used a lot like that today. I actually learned that they're used for anti-venom. So that was cool to learn. So now that, everybody knew the importance of sheep, even if you weren't educated of the time, he could use sheep and talk about the shepherd going and finding the lost sheep because everybody knew that they liked to eat. I'm sure they liked milk. They didn't have cereal, so I'm sure they liked milk. And I'm sure they like to be warm, right? Everybody likes to be warm when it's cold. So everybody knew that they were, and money. They all liked money. So they knew it was important to have that one sheep that had ran off. So Jesus uses sheep and calls us sheep because we are just as important to him as sheep are to the shepherd. So in John 10:11, he tells us that he says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd sacrifices his life for the sheep. So there, once again, he calls us sheep. And like I said, I always thought a sheep is like this mindless animal that done what they were told, just like kids are supposed to do, that they don't. So, and they follow the shepherd wherever you walk, and it's like a dog, like a good dog that just follows you everywhere. But of course, I learned they don't do that. So, what does a good shepherd get to help? A good dog. I'm a dog person, sorry. So you get a good dog, right? You help guard them. You're like, all right, you go get them, and I'll stand here, and you bring them to me. I'm guessing that's how it works, and the dogs round them up and bring them to you. And then I thought, man, sheep are just dumb animals. They run from their food, and then, they have to have a dog come get them. And then, they're just not very smart animals. But if you teach them or train them or even raise them to come to you, when you walk out in the field, they will come to you, apparently, from what I got told. So how much are we like sheep? Where Jesus comes out in the field and we dart the other way. And then all of a sudden, Jesus is like, hey, look, I'm here. I'm literally trying to help you. I'm trying to feed you. Get back here. And you just keep on running as fast as you can run in the opposite way until Jesus has to go get us, right? He comes after us. And then he takes the wool that has grown over our eyes and he trims it back and shears us to where we can actually see, oh, maybe he is really trying to help me. Maybe I'm better off with him than I am if I'm running in the opposite direction. And instead of being like a hired hand where we run off and, he just watches us run away, he actually chases after us and takes us back with him and shows us, look, I've come to help you. I've come to actually make you into something better. This is why you're so important to me. This is why I love you. This is why I created you. I knew you before you ever even, when you were knitted in your mom's womb. I knew you, and I have this plan for you, and I need you to come here with me. And I never realized how much we were supposed to be dependent on God until I looked at it through this aspect and through a child's aspect. So as most of you know, me and my wife decided to foster. So we have a foster baby that is, I'll do it, Vela. It's 14 months. It's a year, is what I say. He's a year old. After they're a year, you just say a year old. You don't just 14 months, 15 months, 16 months. No, they're a year and a half, and they're 2 years old. Done. That's the way it's supposed to be. The only person agreeing, I got two. I got the sound guy and this, thank you. Awesome. So, anyway, all right, so, and he depends on us to feed him, to get up when he cries at midnight and 2 and 4, and then to make sure he's got enough to drink, to change him, to bathe him, all this stuff, right? He depends on us, and he has faith in us to do this for him. He just cries and he doesn't talk. He talks, but he doesn't tell us I'm hungry. He just cries. We're expected to know what that cry means. You want food? You're just throwing everything at him. No, but you learn which one's what. But anyway, he's super dependent on us. And that's how we're supposed to be with God, right? We're supposed to look to him for everything. And the good shepherd he is, we look for safety, we look for food, and I would say we should look for friends through Jesus. And as adults, we often say, I'll do it myself, right? We grow up and we start working and we start all this other stuff, and then we're I'll just do it myself. I don't need to ask for help. this 200-pound box that needs to go in the attic, straight up that ladder, I think I'll just throw it on my back, and I think I'll just carry it right up that ladder by myself. I don't think I need any help, And man, your wife is like, you better call so-and-so to come over here and help you. No, I've got it. Don't you worry, honey. I got it. I'm big, strong. I'm a man. I can carry it. I got it. And then you get halfway up that ladder, and then you throw your back out. Yeah, I'm learning about that at my age now because I have a rib out. So anyway, it's real painful. So you throw your back out trying to do stuff yourself instead of calling a friend that would be like, oh yeah, I'll come help you in like 5 minutes. I'll be there. And that's what we do with God, right? We try to do it ourselves. And then we wonder why it didn't work or why we're more hurt than we were when we started. And I'd assume some of the sheep, they have baby sheep, lambs, and they raise them. They milk them sometimes they don't. Anyway, so they show their young exactly what to do, right? They're like, all right, I would assume this is how it goes. You can, once they get old enough, you eat this, you don't eat that, this, blah, blah. Like they know and they teach. And that's what we're supposed to do with our children, right? We're supposed to, as we raise them up, hopefully we raise them to love and serve and just talk to God as a friend. And then as a parent, you love to watch them grow into what God has for them. And when they mess up, what do? When they fall, when they're just learning to walk and they fall, you don't just, oh man, I bet that hurt. And you stand there. No, you're like, oh my goodness. You run over there and you pick them up and you're like, all right, let's go. And you hold their little hands, hold you. And it's really cute. So anywho, so you don't just, when they fall, you don't just say, oh, I bet that hurt. Well, you better try again. Or get mad at them. Well, you should be walking by now. No, you don't say that. So you go over there and you help them and you love on them, just like Jesus does with us whenever we go off on our own as well. And in Luke 15, 3-7, it's the same parable, but it's different. It says, Jesus told them this story. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness to go search for the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he finds it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he will call together all his friends and neighbors, saying, rejoice with me because I have found my lost sheep. In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. So Jesus says he will joyfully carry it home. He'll joyfully carry us home on his shoulders, right? So many times we run off and we do whatever we want, and then we finally stop running after we hear Jesus calling us like 15 million times. And then we just sit there and we hang our head and we're like, man, I am in so much trouble. I've done so much wrong. And you just sit there and you want to sulk. But instead, he puts you on his back and he carries you home. And he's happy that you stopped running from him. Like he's happy that he can love on you and show you what you've been missing and bring you home where you belong and home safely. And brings us home and he throws a party, right? He calls his friends and he's like, hey, come back, kind of like the parable of the prodigal son. The boy goes off, squanders all his dad's money, and then son comes home finally, and the dad throws a party, right? Well, that's awesome. Except for how many times are we the brother of the story? How many times are we the one that hasn't left, and we're standing there, and there's a party for the one that left, and we're so confused, and we're so hurt. And God's like, what's wrong? Well, I never left you. Me and these other 99, like my 98 friends, we all stayed here. We all did what we were told. Like we all did what we were supposed to do. And then he runs off. And when you get him back, you throw a party. Like, what about us? Like, what about us? And it always comes down to selfishness, right? Like it always comes down to what about us? Instead of just being glad and congratulating the person that finally found out what we've had all along, that we forgot, honestly, what we've had all along. And we may walk up to them and we may say, congratulations, I'm glad to see you finally got baptized, or, awesome, I'm glad you're here at church today. When deep down we're really thinking like, man, they should have been here a long time ago. Or how long until they mess up again? How long until they stop coming? And we're all human. I'm sure we've all had the same thoughts, but we're called to be like Jesus, where he loves all of us, all the sheep, no matter what. That it doesn't matter our flaws. It doesn't matter anything. He loves us and just wants us to be with him. If Jesus only wanted some of the sheep, I would assume that, one, he may not have came down to earth, but two, if he did come down, he'd have been like, all right, cool. I'm going to take you 12, and you guys are going to follow me for a while, and then I'm just going to take you 12 only. Like, the cross isn't going to happen because, they're too far gone. They're too lost. I'm just going to take you 12, and then everything's going to be good, right? No, that's not what happened. He didn't. He said, I am the good shepherd, and I will sacrifice my life for my sheep. And then he goes on to call us friends. In John 15, 13 through 14, it says, there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. So he comes down and dies for us. And he didn't just come down as a man. He came down as a lamb, as a sheep, as a sacrifice for us. And we often talk about, the cross and the resurrection. And a few times I've heard before with Barabbas. And if you guys haven't heard that story, it's awesome. There's a video that goes around. You have to watch it. But where he's up there with Barabbas by Pilate, and the people say, give us Barabbas. And he's like, but Barabbas is a murderer, a rapist. Like, what? Why do you want him? Give us Barabbas. And he's like, all right. He lets Barabbas go. And Jesus stands up there, doesn't fight it, doesn't nothing, just stands there. And because he loved Barabbas just as much as he loves his disciples. And in John 19, 1 through 3, it says, then Pilate had Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip. The soldiers wove a crown of thorns and put it on his head. They put a purple robe on him. Hail, King of the Jews, they mocked as they slapped him across the face. That's part of him being the lamb for us. And of course, we know the rest, right? They make him carry his cross up to Calvary, and they nail him to it beside the two thieves. And 3 days later, he then rises as no longer the lamb or the sheep, right? He rises as the lion, the good shepherd that we are called to listen to and seek his will for our life. And just like the sheep that are trained and are raised to listen to the shepherd's voice, we are to listen to him and trust in him to know what is best for us. To know that, it'll probably be hard to do. It'll probably be hard to get up and preach on a Sunday or a Wednesday, or, it'll be hard to go talk to that person, hard to love on that person. Sometimes those people are hard to love. It'll be hard. But we have to have faith and trust that no matter what we're doing for him, he will see us through. No matter what's going on in our life, even if it's rough, trial, tribulation, he'll see us through it. And sometimes it's our own doing, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes we're chasing after God and we just end up in a rut, right? We're like, God, I'm doing everything for you and I don't see you. And God's like, well, I'm still here, I promise. So we just sit there and we stop moving. That's the time that we're supposed to lean into the shepherd. That's the time that he carries us the most. And he is always there to protect us and love us in those hard moments. And most of it, like I said, we don't understand. But do you guys think sheep understand everything? No, I don't think they do. But I also thought they were dumb animals. You think they understand why we shear them? Like, I'm sure there's some sheep that are like me, that like their hair long, that like to have nice curly locks. And they're like, yeah, I finally got my hair back. And then all of a sudden, this guy comes and gets them and just cuts it all off without asking. Like, that doesn't happen to me. But seriously, like, do you think they understand that? Do you think they understand why there's always somebody coming out in their field disturbing them? Why there's a dog that just lays around and barks at them, or, barks and growls at stuff that comes in the field? No. Do you think they understand the fence? I'm sure they get out of the fence from time to time. No, they don't understand that either. And how many times do you have cattle or horse or sheep that get out and you're like, man, I wish you would just understand that that fence is there to protect you. Like, to keep you inside of this boundary, one, that I own. Two, that there's no car going to hit you and there's nothing out there or nothing in there that is going to get you. And I can see you and keep a watchful eye out for something that's coming to get you, right? Man, I bet Jesus says, man, if only they would understand that they need to stay inside my will. They need to stay over here with me. That I'm here, I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to keep you from temptation. I'm trying to keep you from sin. If only they would understand all of this. If only they understood that I love them so much that I came down and I died for them. If only they understand that I came to give them life and life more abundantly. That I have plans for them, great plans, to prosper, not for destruction. If only they could see it. If only they could see what I have done for them, what I gave up for them. If only they could see the love I have for them. Man, how many times do we jump the fence? And God's like, get back here. If only you understand, please come back. Now, I completely understand why he uses sheep and children for his parables. Because as adults, we overthink it all. We think, I know what's best for my life. I know what I can handle. I know what I can do. But honestly, we don't know anything. We think we know best, but we don't. We raise our kids with what we know is best or think what's best for them. We do stuff in our own life that we think is best for us. Most of us work 80 hours a week because I got bills to pay. I gotta have a house. Like, that's what's best for me and my family, is to live in a house. Yeah, I mean, it's important to live in a house, but it's also important to love on your child and love Jesus and show them the love of Jesus, right? And so many times we get it messed up and we overthink it. So many times we jump the fence and run from Jesus thinking we know what's best. And instead, we're doing worse than we could have ever imagined. And Jesus is chasing after us, saying, please come back. Please stop running. I am here. I love you. Come back. And this could be for somebody that's never met Jesus. And this can be for somebody that's walked with Jesus for 60 years. Because, Jesus is just saying, come home. Come back to where you belong. Come home, please. Now, like I said, I understand why we're like sheep. So, if you're that one sheep, stop running. Turn around. Sit down. Take a break for a minute. Let Jesus come get you. Let him carry you home. Let other believers come alongside you and throw a party. And if you're the 99, be happy that that one has come home. Be happy that Jesus carried him home. Join the party. Don't sulk in your self-worth. Be happy. Celebrate. So if you guys would, bow your heads with me and I'll pray and we'll worship. Dear Lord, I just thank you for the never-ending love that you give us. Lord, I pray that if we're the one, that we will just sit down and we will just look for you, Lord. that we will wait for you to come get us. Lord, I pray that we will come alongside that one, that we will just pray with them. We will just mentor them, Lord. Lord, I thank you for the love and the grace that you show us that we don't deserve. Lord, I thank you for coming down and giving everything up for us when you didn't have to. Lord, I just thank you and I love you and praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.